I must confess, the thought of reading fan fiction has always been difficult for me. Putting aside the fact that the ratio of well-written tales to the bland and predictable is still not as good as I'd like it to be, I've always had trouble reading most anything for more than 10 minutes at a time. My mind starts getting anxious to do something else. However, I have known about many very well-received fan fictions in the brony fandom even since my early days of joining the herd. And the one story that has been recommended to me more than any other is Past Sins by Penstroke. I've lost count of how many comments have been left on my videos over the months requesting me to take a look at this story. So on one fateful Saturday, while I was taking part in a local brony meetup, I started reading through the first couple of chapters while listening to someone give a presentation on pony vector art. Believe it or not, it actually started to become easier to read something when I was able to split my attention every so often. And the story actually did a really good job at drawing me in with only the first few chapters. It doesn't take long for some really intriguing questions to come along and make you think about what is the right course of action, and I really enjoy stories that make you think about how you would react in a similar situation, where the choices are not always so clear-cut. I intend to go into some minor spoilers while I'm discussing this story, but I promise I won't give away anything major here. I thought it was rather fascinating to read through all of Twilight's mental quandaries in regards to Nyx, and as the title of the story suggests, a lot of this book has to do with how much burden you can place on others due to their past actions, or even whether such a pony should be given any blame. While reading through each chapter, my mind would often try to predict what would happen next, and while I could foresee many aspects of this story, there are a number of moments that genuinely surprised me. And in looking back over the story once I had come to the end, I can better understand why the author did certain things in a certain way. While reading about some of Celestia's decisions in the stories, I had my doubts as to whether she was being portrayed in a good way. But later on, I had discovered that her behavior really did have a good reason to be there, as it helps to drive towards a very satisfying conclusion. In the early chapters, I was also thoroughly enjoying all the little things in life that Nyx was taking part in, as it sets her up as a rather tragic character that really just wants to find happiness in her life. And given her history, it is easily understandable as to why that would be so difficult for her to achieve. There are many moments that show just how innocent and carefree she can be, and she does develop some genuine relationships with the many characters that we know and love in Ponyville. I can really appreciate how the author made every step of Nyx's journey relatable. Even when she is making decisions that will obviously lead to others getting hurt, I still feel as though I could understand why she was striving towards these goals. And that's really the greatest strength of this story, a very relatable main character that is interacting with some very good renditions of the main six, the CMC, the Royal Sisters, and quite a few other enjoyable characters that we know and love. Even though the writer takes a few liberties here and there with the main six, it still feels very natural and believable for them to act this way given the situations they come across. And even though much of the focus is on Twilight, every member of the main six have their moment in the spotlight during this story. You really feel for both Nyx and Twilight in every chapter you read, and more than once these characters will start tugging at your heartstrings. And for a story that is frequently presenting conflicts with no easy answers, it is rather admirable to see that it can leave quite the emotional impact as well. It asks some very good questions, like the following lines here that I would like to read to you now. Answer me this. How many bad decisions can a pony make before she is a bad pony? It doesn't matter how many. If a pony is willing to apologize and do what's right to fix her mistakes, then she's never a bad pony. These words in particular really stuck out to me when I was reading, and makes up a large part of the conflict in the story. Just how much blame can you put on an individual for what they might do in the future? Should you put aside one's past sins in favor of the good they have spread today? I really like a story that can challenge your morals and get you to think about what would really be the right course of action. And while reading through the story, you will be presented with many different perspectives that each have their own merits. So overall, I wholeheartedly recommend Past Sins. It has become one of the most popular fan fictions in the brony fandom for good reason. The characters are enjoyable, relatable, and memorable. The story will challenge you with situations that are not so easy to figure out. The ending will leave you feeling satisfied for putting in the effort, and the emotional impact will stay with you for a long time yet. And as an added bonus, I didn't find anything about this story offensive, so I don't have to worry about recommending it to any fan of MLP. Check it out if you haven't already. And for those of you who have read Past Sins, I would greatly enjoy hearing your thoughts. What parts of this story stood out the most in your mind? Do you think the author presented these characters in a relatable way? Is this the kind of story that makes you want to read through it again and again? Or were there some elements about this fanfiction that didn't sit well with you? I would like to hear your thoughts about Past Sins, and as for me, here's to hoping that I can find the patience to read through another fanfiction in the near future. I am DRWolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.